Alright everybody, today we are going to be taking a look at scrolls, the scroll editor, also going to look at the scroll PLMs, and some Door ASM. So this should be quite fun and interesting. So, back in this room we're basically just going to start off showing off the scroll editor, which is in Tools. Now before you go into it, make sure to save your room if you've done any work, because it'll refresh the room, so you'll lose any changes if you didn't save it. But basically, this is what the scroll editor looks like. Basically all you have to do is click on the scrolls, change their color, and that's all there is to it. The difference between scrolls is red, the camera will not scroll into those. So I could have like this Tetris block shape here and get rid of these two scrolls. So camera won't scroll there, you can't see what's in there. And so since the rooms have to be, like, I can't make a room this shape, I have to have these extra two blocks in here, so if they're unneeded, it's a good way to prevent scrolling, stuff like that. But what's better with this, excuse me, is that the scroll PLMs allow for secrets. So what we're going to do, we're going to make this red, so the camera will only scroll in here once they're in here. And this one we can leave blue because the camera will not scroll past this point here. So to save our changes, you simply click Save Normal Scroll. And something I should mention right now is the difference between the green and blue scrolls. Let me get out of this. This will show it a little bit better. Basically, the blue scrolls and green scrolls act very similar. However, the green scrolls will show the bottom two rows of that scroll area. So, for instance, if this were blue, the camera would not scroll down past this tile here. With green, it shows further down. So if you have like a 1 block tall hallway, to keep the camera fixed right in the middle, you can use blue scrolls. Otherwise, it will scroll a little bit with the green if they jump or you run across the slope or something. Both will not show the top two rows of tiles, so you're not getting that with either of these. And I mentioned this in the door editing video, but you need the green scroll for a vertical door going down, because like I said, the blue scroll does not show these bottom two, and if you don't and you go through a door that goes down, you will end up with a lot of scrolling and graphical glitches. Okay, so after that long and lengthy explanation, what we are going to do is, let me just get, okay, good, that is solid. And to show off something really quick, you know what, you need to go up a little bit higher. There. In fact, we'll go up here. And it's good enough, I guess. Then we can go, I mean, this will work for what we need. This will work. So let's do a quick test just to show off the scrolls we've got here. So we know we've made further past this. There's more room here, and of course the map kind of shows it, but it won't scroll past that point. So, and again, the very good way of hiding secrets, let me just Actually, okay, let's start looking at these scroll PLMs. Save the room, go back in here. Now for this, you have the three options here. There's obviously the normal, which is how the room normally will be. The PLM scrolls, this affects how touching a certain scroll PLM will cause a change in the room. So if we do the PLM scroll, obviously now we can change this over to a blue, and we could change that whole thing there. So now they can get into the door. So when we click save on this, actually, I'll make those green so they match. It pops up this box. Now with this, you need free space in bank 8F. You can look in a hex editor to find it, but I personally have just used this option. I've never had any issues with it yet, so that's a good thing. So when you click on it, it pops up this number here, E9BE. When you click save, it wants to make sure you've written this down. You don't have to, but make sure you remember it. So yes, let's reset the values. Then we go back in here. Now we take our scroll PLM and we have these high and low. This is what we plug that number in. We already have the E9 in there, so what we need to do is plug in BE. Now when they touch this scroll PLM, it will change the scroll values of the rest of the room. So if I put it there, actually put it there. So let's test this out just to make sure this works. So right now the screen won't scroll past this point. We just touched the scroll PLM right there though, and now we can scroll. So again, that is very simple. It's how scroll PLMs work. And a quick little note about this. You will see in a lot of rooms these arrows. There's 4 of them for all the directions. These are absolutely pointless and useless. Jathy's even wrote it in the comment box. Should use BTS values instead. The reason being is you need a lot less PLMs, and it's really not difficult to do. So we have this scroll PLM here. So if they morph and manage to miss touching this, they can roll back here, but the screen won't scroll because they didn't touch the PLM. So to prevent that, we use the vertical BTS and also the horizontal, depending on where our PLM is. So now that we've got that's a horizontal. Vertical, let's do it. What we want to do is plug in FF. Basically, with vertical, FF will start counting upwards. So FF, that's one up top. Put that one here. So this is copying the scroll PLM, and this is copying this, which is copying the scroll PLM. You could also, if you wanted to, do FE, so they both just copy the scroll PLM. Either way will work. In fact, let me just move that right up there, and I'll put that there. That should work. So let me just test this out so we can show this off a little bit. So when we jump up here, see the scroll PLM is actually above the solid tile, but these 3 blocks are copying where the scroll PLM is. So it's acting the same as if I was touching the scroll PLM. So again, very simple to do, much better than using the PLMs. And if you have a room that has a whole bunch of those arrows, which there are quite a few of those, you can have those PLMs for whatever else you need, door caps, refill stations, saves, whatever. It just saves a lot of PLMs that way. So basically this is copying right there. It's copying the scroll PLM. This is copying this tile, which is copying the scroll PLM. This is copying this tile, which is copying the scroll PLM. So only one of these is copying the scroll PLM, but because the other two are copying that tile, they're all copying it. It makes sense eventually. So, the other question is, if we have the player coming from here, or going back, and we don't want the camera to keep scrolling back here, what we do is quite simply, we'll put that PLM there in preparation. What we need to do is go to our normal scrolls. We're going to save how the PLM affects it as the normal scroll. Now what we do is go back and change it to the quote-unquote normal value. The reason we do it this way is because if I tried to save, since this is the normal, if I tried to save the scroll PLM to do this, it would not let me because no values have been changed. So you have to set it the other way, and then you can save that and then go to the PLM scrolls and set it back this way. So that's how you get around that. Now when we save this, E9C7, let's save that. And now that we're back here, just fix that. We'll go back in. So now we need E9C7. Oops, so there. So now we're copying that, we'll copy that, and now let's put in a horizontal. We'll give this the FF value. With horizontal, FF goes to the left. If you want right or down with the vertical or horizontal, you start with 0, 1, and so forth. Basically starting at the opposite ends so that they count or move the other direction. So now what we have, if they touch this, nothing will change because all it's doing is setting the scroll values to what they are already. That's what this PLM is doing. So when they jump up, touch this, the scroll values will be correct. So let's get in here. We'll show this off here. So I'm touching them right there, and nothing's happening, nothing with the camera. Jump up here, now it's scrolling. Should really make that unsolid. Unsolid, yes. So now we are free to go do whatever back in here. But when we fall back, because we have the PLM set like that, it won't scroll back. So that is the basics with scroll PLMs, editing those and using them. They're really not very difficult, and they're very easy to work with. And make sure to use the horizontal and vertical BTS instead of the arrows. They really are much better. One thing to note with them, however, is they will add a little bit extra level data because they're a different tile type and you're giving them a different BTS value. So keep that in mind. You will be using a little bit more, not a whole lot unless your whole room is basically made of these things, but there will be a little bit more. Alright, so now we've got this set up. We have a small issue which we are going to tackle right now. The issue is, if the player is able to enter the door from this direction, this is going to happen, and it's not fun. Because the screen cannot scroll here, you get this wonderful garbled mess, even though Samus can run around freely. It's like, oh hey, now I could scroll up over here. So yeah, this is what we're going to learn how to fix. There are a couple of different ways on this. One way is actually Door ASM, and if you So open this back up. Look through here, there's like door scrolls. You can't edit them in Smile. And I am not going to cover this because I don't know how to make the code myself. So at least in this video, I'm not going to cover this. That part of it anyway. But to do that, you would make the code, put it in the ROM, and then you would point to it with this. Or with, in this case, this door here. You would put it in this door so that way, once you enter the door, it would read what the scrolls should be, because the ASM will run. Then you can have your scrolls set that way. However, there is a way we can combat this without knowing ASM, because I am very good at being lazy and stuff. So, we have our scroll PLM here, which sets these scrolls the way we want them. So all we actually have to do is get Samus to touch them right when she walks through the door. So basically all you have to do, we'll grab some horizontal. No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. So we could do something like this and chain these all up through here. Then you could do a vertical, chain them all up in here. I do stuff like this sometimes when I can. What you could do is, like I mentioned earlier, you could skip all this line here and just have one like right here. And you can have it read all the way back there. In fact, I may just end up doing that. Because if you do it this way, you're adding quite a bit to... That's what I want. You're adding a lot to the room data. That's what I was looking for. And then we just need to have BTS there. We're going to put another horizontal here. And yes, that is normal. Some of the BTS values will show up like that. So if we do, actually, let's grab the FF. So that way it just copies what's right above it. Now all we have to do, figure out, is what our digits should be for this, and what our digits should be to copy this. So we already know. This part takes a little bit. Because here, so just the rest of BD, CBA 98, 7654321, EF, E, BD, CEB. So, if I was right, that BDBs now should be copying that file. Which means this whole thing should be accelerating now because it's down here. So, again, EDCB 898, 7654321, EF, EDCB 898, 7654321, to DF. We'll see that right again. Just have to circle this way. If I got it wrong, they'll just call box in there. Which I got wrong because these are all box. So now, figure out what's wrong. This part takes a while. But I think it's right here. There's nothing wrong with it. So, FFEDCB 8987, 65431, EFEDCB, that's right. That's FEDCBA 987654321. EFEDCBA 987654321. DF. I'll do it right here. Let me try this. That's still a block. For the whole circle. Okay. There's not DF, right? E. Let's see how that works. Oops. I should do that. As I think what I might have done derped. Hey, there we go. I forgot to count the 0. I'm thinking hex, so there's no 0 for some reason. So anyway, now that I got that figured out, what happens when we come to the door here, it spits out Samus right in those tiles that set the PLMs. So now, you know, our scrolls are set. So you can do something like that. You don't need Door ASM, but it will take an extra PLM, which depending on the circumstances with the room, you may not have. It'll take a little extra level data because you have these extra BTS values in the horizontal and vertical property type blocks. But yeah, that is basically all I can show with the scroll editor. There's nothing else left except for the Door ASM, and like I said, I don't know how to do code. So I've managed to get around pretty well with just stuff like this. So you should be alright with this, at least for starters. I'm sure there are some spots where I wish I did have some Door ASM, because sometimes run out of PLMs or something, so you have to find new PLMs, change the ones I already put in back, all this other fun stuff. So yeah, so keep that in mind. You can do stuff like this, it works just fine. And if I really wanted, I could have, well, yeah, you can do some fancy things with PLMs. There's some rooms in the original that have some very interesting things. You'll see like boxes of PLMs coming out with the stupid arrows and covering stuff. Because what you could do is, if you wanted to split a room right in half, like the one PLM will set all this to scrollable, but then make all this red. Basically what would happen is you touch this so everything becomes scrollable, so the camera can scroll. Walk a little further. Once you're down a little, like here or so, you'd hit another PLM, which sets everything back here to all red. But right in front of this here is another PLM that sets everything to scrollable, which is basically the same PLM, you just use arrows. And then this obviously sets so it doesn't scroll back over here. So you could play around with PLMs, and the scrolls get some interesting effects, prevent the camera from scrolling places you don't want it. You will need to keep in mind that the camera is not just going to automatically move to the center. It centers on Samus when it can scroll in a spot. So for instance, if I made this red, this scroll here, and I was able to walk down here, up through here, I could see what's in this scroll by jumping up, by being in the scroll just a little bit, because the camera can scroll up there, or if I jumped at an angle. So if there's something in there you don't want the player to see, you will have to build out around here, build a landmass or something, so that they, when they jump, it's not high enough to see anything, or something like that. And it'd have to be high enough so they can't just walk over and the camera scrolls into the scroll block. So that's something you will find while you're hacking, so keep that in mind. And that's all there is for this scroll tutorial, so thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.